They scanned every species in the galaxy, measured strength, measured power, measured survival. And humans? They called them weak. No claws, no armor, no special abilities, just soft bodies and fear. So they invaded Earth. They expected surrender. They expected silence. But instead, they found something they could not measure, something their machines never detected, something dangerous. Because humans don't fight with strength. They fight with something far worse. They fight, even when they should lose. And that was their biggest mistake. They had seen thousands of worlds before Earth. Planets filled with powerful species, warriors made of metal, creatures that could survive in fire, minds that could control others without speaking. Compared to them, humans looked weak. Soft bodies, no natural weapons, slow reflexes, short lives. When the Galactic Dominion scanned Earth, their systems showed one clear result: low threat. Humans did not have claws, they did not have armor, and they did not have advanced technology compared to others they had conquered. To the Dominion, strength was simple. Strength was physical power, durability, and control, and humans had none of it. So the conclusion was easy. Earth was just another easy target. In the council chamber, alien leaders looked at the data and made their decision without hesitation. No need for a large invasion, no need for full force. Just one fleet would be enough. One fleet to take control of an entire planet. They believed humans would panic, surrender, and accept their fate. Because that is what most species did when faced with a stronger enemy. They followed logic. They followed survival calculations. But what the Dominion did not understand was that humans do not always follow logic. Humans do not always choose the safe path. Sometimes, they choose the impossible one. Sometimes, they fight even when there is no chance of winning. And that was something their scanners could not measure. Their machines saw weakness, but they could not see courage. They saw fragile bodies, but they could not see unbreakable will. They measured muscles, but not mindset. They calculated survival rates, but not sacrifice. In their eyes, humans were already defeated before the battle even began. That was their biggest mistake, because while the Dominion was preparing to conquer Earth, something inside humanity was already waking up. Something ancient, something dangerous, something that does not appear in any data or numbers. And by the time they would finally understand it, it would already be too late. The day the ships arrived, the sky changed forever. Massive shadows covered entire cities as alien fleets entered Earth's atmosphere. People looked up in fear as the sun disappeared behind cold metal structures. No one had ever seen anything like it. Communication systems across the world suddenly activated at the same time, and a single message was broadcast in every language: submit or be erased. There was no emotion in their voice, no anger, no hate. Just a simple statement, like it was already decided. Panic spread instantly. Governments tried to respond, but their systems were shut down within minutes. Military defenses were destroyed before they could even react. Cities fell into chaos. People ran, screamed, and hid, unsure of what to do. To the Dominion, everything was going exactly as expected. They observed from above, watching humans break under pressure. Fear was everywhere. Disorder was everywhere. And this confirmed their belief. Humans were weak. Humans were fragile. But then, something unexpected started to happen. It was small at first, almost invisible. In one city, a group of civilians refused to leave. In another place, a soldier continued fighting even after losing communication. A doctor kept saving lives while explosions happened around her. These were not organized actions. There was no command behind them. But they kept happening. Again and again. Humans were still afraid, but they were not giving up. The Dominion could not understand it. Fear should lead to surrender, not resistance. But humans were different. They felt fear, but they moved forward anyway. They were not fearless. They were something more dangerous. They were determined. And slowly, the Dominion began to notice that this invasion was not going to be as easy as they thought. Because even in the middle of chaos, even when everything was falling apart, humans were still standing. And that was something they had not planned for. At the beginning, human resistance was weak. There were no strong weapons, no advanced strategies, no unified command. Just ordinary people trying to survive. But humans have something unique. They learn fast. They adapt fast. And most importantly, they refuse to stay down. A farmer who had never held a weapon before started fighting back. A teacher began planning attacks using simple logic and observation. A mechanic learned how to repair and even modify alien technology. These were not soldiers. These were normal people. But they were changing. Every loss made them stronger. Every failure taught them something new. The Dominion noticed this pattern, but they did not understand it. Most species become weaker after defeat. Humans became stronger. Every time they were pushed down, they stood up again, but different, smarter, more prepared, more dangerous. And then the spark became a fire. Small groups turned into larger movements. Strangers started working together without hesitation. There was no need for orders. Everyone already knew what needed to be done. Protect each other. Fight back. Survive. The Dominion started losing control in small areas. Not because humans were stronger, but because they were unpredictable. Humans did not follow patterns. They did not follow logic. They followed instinct. And that made them impossible to fully understand. One alien commander observed a battlefield and said something that had never been said before about any species. They should have stopped fighting, but they didn't. And that was the moment the Dominion realized something was wrong. Because humans were not acting like a weak species. They were acting like something else. Something that could not be measured. Something that could not be controlled. Something that was slowly turning the entire war around. Time passed, and the war did not end. What was supposed to be a quick victory turned into a long and exhausting conflict. The Dominion started losing more resources than expected. Every city they captured became unstable. Every system they controlled was attacked from inside. Humans were not just resisting anymore. They were evolving. They started understanding alien weapons and using them against their enemies. They learned how their ships worked. They learned their weaknesses. And they used everything they learned without hesitation. The Dominion had never seen anything like this before. Other species needed generations to adapt. Humans did it in weeks. Their progress was fast, chaotic, and unstoppable. And the most dangerous part was that they were not afraid to fail. Humans made mistakes, but they learned from them instantly. They turned failures into strategies, pain into power, loss into motivation. The Dominion started to feel something new. Not fear, but uncertainty. And uncertainty is the beginning of fear. One alien general reviewed the situation and said, "This species is not following any known survival pattern." That was the problem. Humans were not predictable. They did not behave like prey. They did not behave like normal enemies. They behaved like survivors. And survivors do whatever it takes. The turning point came when humans stopped defending and started attacking. They targeted alien ships, disrupted their systems, and forced them into retreat in several areas. It was no longer a one-sided invasion. It was a war. And for the first time in their history, the Dominion was not in control, because they had miscalculated the one thing that mattered the most: the human will to rise. In the final phase of the war, everything changed. Humans were no longer scattered and disorganized. They were united, not by a single leader, not by a single command, but by a shared purpose: to protect their world, to protect each other, to never surrender. The Dominion launched one final attempt to take control, using all their remaining power. Massive ships, advanced weapons, overwhelming force. But this time, humans were ready. They did not panic. They did not run. They stood together. Millions of individuals acting as one. And that was something no technology could defeat. Because unity is stronger than power. The battle was intense, but the outcome was clear. The Dominion started losing ground. Their ships were destroyed one by one. Their systems were hacked and turned against them. Their strategy failed completely. And finally, they did something they had never done before. They retreated. As their last ship left Earth, they sent one final message: "We measured you wrong." It was not an apology. It was a realization. They had judged humans by the wrong standards. They looked at physical strength, but ignored mental strength. They saw fear, but ignored courage. They saw weakness, but ignored potential. And that mistake cost them everything. Humans did not respond to the message. They did not need to, because their actions had already answered it. They proved that strength is not just about power. It is about endurance. It is about rising after every fall. It is about fighting even when the odds are impossible. And in that moment, humanity was no longer the weakest species in the galaxy. They were something else, something greater, a force that cannot be measured, a force that cannot be stopped, a force that will always rise. In a universe full of monsters, they feared strength, but they forgot to fear humans.